Hello, my name is Kathryn Clarke, and we are here to talk about spirituality. Now, a part 2 of a building block would be love your neighbor as yourself, but only if you're good at it. We are each a separate human being. None of us experiences life in exactly the same way as another person. Now, this is true for language, for nonverbal communication, and for spiritual understandings and feelings as well. Our spiritual being will always need a certain amount of privacy and a certain amount of solitary searching. There are some journeys one simply must travel alone. The journey to our spiritual self is like that. True, there are some emergency situations in life where we need God and we need Him now. They say there's no better water pump on a boat than a person in a sinking boat with a bucket. Now, that's how we can feel. We can be a little like that spiritually. When we encounter tragedy, say, or an adversity, a dreadful situation, or terrible confusion, an addiction, or just a standard existential crisis, we can need God and we can need Him now. And by the way, no well-lived life is going to escape some of those tougher experiences. Of course, we all say that these encounters with terrible and grave struggles provide us with huge growth and consequent character development. Not that anyone likes the experiences, but they do stretch us. Developing some of these spiritual muscles can be like preparing for being on a boat with water coming in and packing a pump and sealing any potential leaks. And we can think of our spirituality like that. We'll have well-developed muscles if we need them, when we need them. So let's do it. Basic spirituality, let's say, we are people with a shared humanity and we are people of all faiths and no faith. But many of us have heard of this line of scripture from Mark 12:31, which urges us to love your neighbor as yourself. Wow, such a newsflash. We are urged and instructed, even commanded, you might say, to love our neighbor as ourselves. It sounds really easy or straightforward. Here's the problem. How can we love ourselves when, if we're being honest, many of us don't even like ourselves? And maybe nobody ever told us that we were supposed to like ourselves, never mind love ourselves. Some of us would even say that we hate ourselves, that we have self-loathing, and that's a true story. Now, I once heard one man say to me, "Sure, I'm hard on other people, but I'm harder on myself," as though this were some type of defense or justification for being overly critical or negatively scrutinizing others. Clearly, if one is in a habit of negatively scrutinizing oneself, we have a partial explanation for why one might be negatively scrutinizing the people around him or her. But it's not good. And even though we can understand it, we can see that it's not a good idea. We shouldn't pretend, at any rate, that it's advanced spiritual thinking. Neuroscience always supports solid spiritual thinking. And this is yet another area where that is the case. To summarize, a fundamental spiritual building block is as follows. You have to learn to love yourself. And you can. It can happen. I want to tell you a story. There was a young man who failed at business. Now, first he succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, which was really good, but it did not help him when the failure came. For 3 days and nights, he stayed in bed. The sun went up, the sun came down. He remained in bed, thinking thoughts of ending his life, thoughts of self-recrimination and self-hatred. He had a moment then, finally, where he couldn't stand it anymore. And like his blanket, he threw off the self-hatred, rejected the negative scrutiny. He got out of his bed and he began to write. On a piece of paper, he wrote, "I love myself, I love myself, I love myself." He took a shower, he came back, and he wrote, "I love myself, I love myself. I love myself. He kept at this day after day and week after week, month after month. His whole life changed totally. He basically binged on the second part of that line of scripture, and nothing was ever the same for him. Conclusion, your most crucial spiritual experience is to do the same thing. If you do not love yourself and like yourself now, in this moment, then perhaps you'll try to love yourself in the next moment. Your whole spiritual being will become alert. He's ready to engage, your spirit will say. She's finally in the game, your spirit will say. And your mysterious journey can begin.